Chinatown and Area Business Association says other businesses have reported drops between 30 and 50%.
We're just on a survival mode at the moment.
Even before COVID-19, due to visitors not feeling safe and a lack of beautification.
I think I need a haircut. With over 30 Chinatown businesses closing up shop during the pandemic, and many reported concerns about safety in the neighborhood and less foot traffic even before COVID, I wanted to visit some places that were still around in Chinatown North to hear about their experiences. I booked a haircut and a chat with Julius, one of the co-founders of Compound Cut Club, a relatively new barbershop here in Chinatown that Julius says takes his experience of cutting hair in his friends' basements to a physical shop for anyone to enjoy the atmosphere, get to know each other, and get a nice haircut while they're here.
Cutting hair like in high school, hey?
Yep, in high school, that's right, 2011, 2012.
Yeah. How did that first interest come about?
I was just at a buddy's house.
Yeah.
And one of the homies wanted a haircut.
Yeah.
My friend Shane, he had a pair of like Walmart clippers at home.
Yeah.
And I just took a swing at it. I'm like, let me try.
Yeah.
I found it really fun and satisfying. Eventually, you know when you reach a stage after high school and you're like trying to figure out what you want to do. I was at that stage and that's when I realized, well, I'm already cutting hair, I might as well see if I can make a career out of it. I guess opening a shop was one of those things that I always had as a goal ever since I started cutting hair. I just pictured it ever since I was cutting in the basements and with the homies in the washrooms. We would be cutting hair, he would have a garbage bag over his shoulders, so we're using that as a cape. But then we had some music going on in the background and the speakers and people are just sitting around chilling. And I'm like, this is the concept itself already. How sick would it be to have a barbershop do the same thing? That's all we're doing. Yeah, honestly, I'm happy that we're in Chinatown too.
Yeah.
I think this is a cool spot. I think it deserves to be in the limelight.
And I mean, that's why I wanted to interview you or chat with you or check this place out, because I've been looking at so many like the older businesses here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you probably know better than I do, but there haven't been a lot of like new businesses coming into this area, right?
I agree.
Like,
I mean, I've had customers just be like, you know, I haven't been to Chinatown since I was a kid. I used to eat at like Tao Bei, and just coming back here now to see you at your shop. Now I'm back to eating the banh mi here, having some pho there.
yeah.
And you know, I guess it does bring, like, my business kind of helps bring business to other ones.
Yeah.
And vice versa, right? And that's great. And going back to what you said, you know, about young businesses or new businesses opening up here in Chinatown, I mean, I encourage it, you know what I mean? I think that'd be great for Chinatown.
After feeling about 10 pounds lighter, I worked up an appetite and headed over to King Noodle House Pho Hui, a family-owned Vietnamese restaurant that has been operating in Edmonton for over 26 years. That's as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, you know, when I come to Canada and then I work in about 10 years after I opened a restaurant for the Vietnamese soup. They call it phở, right? Beef noodle soup, right? And with my family in Vietnam, they know my mom how to do for the soup, and now my turn, right? And then we opened from 1995 at 107 Ave and 111 Street. We've been there about 11 years. And then we thinking we moved to Chinatown because the place, a lot of people, white people, they will come to this place.
But they've been in Chinatown for 16 years.
16
yeah.
years. 16 years, yeah. Over 16 years.
So when you first came to Chinatown in 2006,
Yeah.
you're saying that it was like a good place to start a business.
Yeah. For good place for doing business because I think with the restaurant because I think before in the China if you want to eat Asia food. You just come to Chinatown. They have so many restaurants: Chinese restaurant, Vietnamese restaurant, Lao restaurant, Cambodia or Thailand restaurant before they here.
Yeah.
And then at the time when we move here, we very busy.
Yeah.
If you want to open,
Gotcha.
Everybody wants the broth.
That's the key.
Yeah.
The broth is the secret.
Even if you do rayon with the soup. When you have the soup, you empty the broth better than you have the noodle and meat. Because we slow cook for overnight, 14 to 16 hours before serve. Everything come out, the bone, ginger.
So yeah, why do you think Chinatown now is not as lively as before?
Khi mà cái dịch mà Covid nó có đó là nhà hàng bắt đầu chậm rồi là tại vì chợ nó mở everywhere. Lucky cũng còn mở ở hướng nọt rồi TNT 3-4 chỗ rồi chợ Đại Hàng rồi ở Smart là Đại Hàng đó. Rồi restaurant cũng vậy. Ở đâu cũng có hết. Ngày xưa là muốn ăn phở hay gì là xuống đây. Bây giờ là bước ra cửa everywhere. Chỗ nào cũng có nhà hàng hết. Thành ra Chinatown nó chậm là vậy.
But with me, you know, we're
2 siblings.
Yeah.
We have 2 siblings, there's 3 of us, but we're all in, I think, different places with our lives right now. So as they're retiring, it's definitely been on all of our minds. You know, we don't want to let this legacy, this 3 generations pho just disappear, but it's just timing, right? It's like, so is it something that we bring back later, or is it something that we, you know,
always
someone
have those
takes us in?
recipes, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's interesting when as we grew up, they never, you know, they worked so hard in the restaurant business, and they didn't want us to work that hard, you know. It's like they know the struggles of restaurant owners and the sacrifice and everything. And they're like, you don't want this, but then at the same time you're like, but we don't want to lose the soup, right? So
they built something special here, so it's
exactly, it's questions like that too. It's if this, you know, closes in Chinatown, what takes over it? Or do we, you know, if we took over, do we leave Chinatown? You know, so it's like, do we stay to help revitalize, or do we leave, start somewhere else because, you know, because of the way things are going, it's not a destination anymore. Whereas before, when they picked this, it was a smart business decision at the time because it was so busy, and now it's like, you know, it's kind of an uphill battle, I think, if we stayed.
I can't believe I finally got to sit down and chat with the mustache man himself. Contrary to their website's write-up, he's actually so nice and extremely passionate about their soup, which he has every right to be. The Huang family were totally right. As my own dad mentioned too, Edmontonians seeking out Asian groceries, restaurants, and services really only had one choice for where to visit up until maybe around the early 2000s. With multiple large Asian grocery chains opening across the city, there's no arguing that the accessibility and convenience of these other stores and districts have greatly reduced the number of patrons in Chinatown North. And with more and more urban sprawl happening, one has to ask, why still come to Chinatown? I knew from the beginning that I wanted to pick the brain of William Lau, a local Chinatown advocate and community organizer who has been working in this space for around the past 8 years.
I think a big part of Chinatown that makes it such a great classroom is that there's so many lessons to be taught here. There's so much value. There's so much material, so much content for kids to dig into, no matter what their interests are. We could also say there's a lot of problems to solve, and a big way of perhaps connecting with an issue or a topic is to really work on it. And there's a lot of work to be done in Chinatown. Right? When I think about the concept of like Chinatown as a classroom, I think about, well, actually there's a lot of things in that we grew up with, hoping that kids would learn in school. Right? You could say social issues. There's enough of that here. Add racism to the agenda as well now. We could say business and economics is key to a business district like Chinatown. Advocacy and politics, another one. There's so many topics that we don't traditionally teach in school, and where Chinatown to me is a perfect playground for that. It's a perfect classroom.
I came to visit Assist Community Services Center, an organization that helps enhance the lives of new immigrants and families through quality services and programs. They've been present in Edmonton's Chinatown for over 40 years, and a spring camp, part of the youth program here called TANG, which stands for Towards a New Generation, was happening. And the coordinators were nice enough to let me interview some of the kids and volunteers about Chinatown and how they feel about being Chinese here.
Yeah, so TANG as the earlier stands for Towards a New Generation, and its purpose is really to guide the youth as its part of its motto, the youth are the next generation.
Like in Tang, we also during Lunar New Year, that week, we also learn about the history and we learned phrases how to say Gong Xi Fa Cai or something like that to people in your family.
Tang has contributed to me knowing about my culture. We've done calligraphy here, and we also learned about this month, May, is Asian History Month. We learned about how it's important and that the history of other Asians, they faced a lot of discrimination and racism.
It's a part of who I am, so.
Yeah, it's also pretty important to me because my grandma also lives with me, so.
I feel like being Chinese is very important to me as a person because it's for example, if I'm walking outside, I feel like someone might ask me questions about China and whatnot since what I look like. So I feel like knowing about your culture so you could respond to them is important instead of if someone asks you and you're I don't know.
Chinatown is pretty nice. I used to come here a lot with my mom, and that's where a lot of my memories came from. It would be going grocery shopping or going to a store. It's a lot of nostalgic memories came from Chinatown, and I really like the atmosphere around it. So I like Chinatown. I appreciate its existence.
I feel like Chinatown kind of reminds you of China in a way. There's always people on the streets usually, and it's hey look, there's a bakery. And then you could just walk in, get some food, walk out. And then you could just go up and down, and it reminds you of China, except it's in Edmonton.
My dad actually owns a herbal store here, and it's nice to see people walk in and him interact with people and make good friends with customers.
Well, I really like Chinatown because the thing is that what I've noticed coming to Chinatown so often is that I feel like a lot of people in Chinatown are more of the Cantonese, Hong Kong, and I think I just feel a really close tie because it's I'm Chinese, but then it's a niche community is I'm from Hong Kong, I'm Cantonese.
Hearing people's perceptions, some of my friends that aren't Chinese, I'd be hey, let's go here to eat. It's pretty sweet, and then they're I've never been here before, but they hear Chinatown, they're oh, it's sketchy, right? But I bring them there, they're wow, I never would have known this was here unless you brought me here kind of thing. So you walk into Chinatown, you kind of feel a sense of familiarity, worldwide. Doesn't matter where you are. So it's I feel it is important to have that kind of thing, where people feel at home, away from home, right?
So when I walk into Chinatown in the future, I definitely would want to see a Chinatown that is more lively and is more representative of our culture. And on top of that, of course, safety is a very important thing because if the area is not safe, you're not going to drive people to come and visit. If this is a dangerous area of Edmonton, even people who are not Chinese, they aren't going to come to Chinatown.
I came to visit a Chinatown butcher shop staple, Kim Fat Market, a multi-generational business where I've read things that the owner, Fong Liu, has been outspoken about in the past about what he thinks Chinatown needs and what he sees as long overdue for the community.
What does Kim Fat Market do? What do you do here?
Well, we specialize in meat, right? Like obviously, if you mention Kim Fat, the first thought in everybody's mind is the meat, right? So everything else, what you see in the background, is just whatever you're gonna pick up for the meal for the day. But we specialize in meat.
So your father started the Kim Fat Market,
Yeah,
right?
This business has been 35 years, and we were way back in Marama days. Under there's a basement that we moved to 97th Street.
Yeah.
And then when I decided to actually take over the store, bought this property, got it down, rebuilt it, and then here we are. You know, the generation with my father rebuilt this business with my mom. Their philosophy was like keep everything like whatever, pick up anything and use it to make money. I came along, I want to kind of make the store look better. And then, you know, still conservative. And then you have Ethan now. He's like, Dad, you're too old school, so you got to like upgrade to all
Upgraded everything.
So he's actually trying to bring the Kim Fat to be more modernized, yet keep the tradition. When you come to Chinatown, the minute you walk into any store, there's going to be everything stuffed everywhere. That's the feeling of our Chinese community. If you go into the big chain stores, everything is nicely organized. It doesn't feel that, you know, that warm feeling where you should get lost. Like here, if you come in here, you want to find something, you got to go find it. Whereas if you go any big box chain, they'll tell you where to go.
You're in and out.
It's not commercialized.
There's no interaction.
You cannot bump into each other. You cannot sit here and talk for a bit. You know.
Yeah. You see the value in staying. You don't want to be going anywhere else. Am I right? Like, is the future of Kim Fat Market and your family here in Chinatown?
Yeah. I chose to be here because this is our community, right? So it's easy for me to say, hey, I'm going to pick up. I can relocate, build somewhere else, but that's not who I am. So I grew up around here. I know how this community works. I've been here almost close to 40 years, right? Yeah. It's not like I just came out of nowhere for a couple of years and trying to, you know, tell you a story, right?
Yeah.
So, Chinatown's like our heritage. I can honestly say that during that time, 2016 to now, our community has gotten worse because everybody has turned a blind eye against our community, right? So with all these agencies around here, they're great to help all these, you know, assist all these like people that need help. But majority of the time, they're here every day, 365 days a year. So we're not really helping them. And what that does to our community is bringing more trouble without solution. And then the police officers, they can't police because, you know, they can't really do anything. So we create our own security, which without the city backing us up or, you know, looking over us, Chinatown, everybody's going to start packing up and leaving. Because this is a gem here, but nobody cares about it.
You recognize how like lots of people are saying Chinatown's dying and like deteriorating a bit, you know. There's been a lot of crime, especially the last couple of years.
With the pandemic, of course.
Yeah. Did you like notice any of those issues when you were considering Chinatown? Did that influence your decision at all?
That definitely influenced my decision in the sense that, you know, I'm a little cautious, right? Being a first-time business owner and then being in a place like Chinatown, of course I'm aware that, you know, it's kind of scary that there's possibilities of maybe break-ins or, I don't know, just maybe even being robbed. To be honest with you, one time I did have a knife get pointed at me just outside here, and I was hanging out, just having a smoke. And you know, it can be scary, right? But I'm hoping that, you know, this changes. It'd be a shame if people don't experience, you know, the many different businesses here, them segregating Chinese people just because of their race. Now they're stuck here in Chinatown, businesses are stuck here. Why is this still a problem we're facing today?
100%. I mean,
right?
I think
That's
it's
true.
a ripple effect, right?
Absolutely.
It's just a ripple effect.
But there are also other factors, such as the unhoused population or the homeless population. To understand why they are congregated around Chinatown, we have to understand the history of Canada and Edmonton as a whole. As a lot of people who are unhoused and homeless are there due to uncertain undesired circumstances, such as people who are indigenous and were victims of not only residential schools, but also the 60s group, where they are being driven to the state due to various reasons. So of course, it's not their reasoning to be there, but a lot of the issues are being scapegoated and pushed towards the Chinatown community because there are the social agencies that provide help and support to these people, and that puts some onus on Chinatown as well.
And speaking, it's not just Edmonton. Yeah. If you look at around the world, Canada, United States, Chinatown always get neglected. They always think that, hey, they don't care, they don't speak up, so let's just push anything that is our trouble, let's push it their way because they don't complain. And that's our. We Asians, we don't complain. We just deal with it, right? Like if you like I said, it would be easy if we all stood up and start complaining, but we're not the type of people. Right? We find a solution, we work, and we just go out our day. But when we do need help, we want help, but we don't get that help. From where I was before, believing that something would happen, and every year going to meetings, every year just spilling out your heart, telling you how you feel about community, nothing happens. Right? Do something about it. Don't talk about it. Don't be a cheerleader. Cheerleaders, I've seen them come and go. It's time for action.
If we left, right, we wouldn't have like a home here, right? It's like you can have Chinatown, but you can't really go like south side and open up a new like Asian store. People are not going to enjoy that, right? Because it's all different. So that's why it's always good to have a heart here, because this is where community is. This is where our people grew up. This is how we all know each other and stuff. If we spread out somewhere else, then right.
So you lose a heritage.
You lose heritage.
The challenge with the North is definitely a long-term play. It's a long-term play, and when we think about immediate effective action that we can do to help and support it, there's really not much there, right? We're pretty much at the mercy of how the three levels of government prioritize, addressing poverty and houselessness. And if that doesn't change, there's really not much we can do.
Because that's the biggest hurdle for Chinatown North.
Yeah.
Is safety and security.
No.
Right?
And even if and when the three levels of government really start to focus on addressing poverty and houselessness, our success, if we have success, will be a byproduct of that. It'll still take more work. They're not going to come in and directly help us for us. It'll be for their primary issue of addressing poverty and houselessness.
Let your feet take you to Chinatown, to the bakery recommended to your mother by the owner of a Chinese bookshop. Stare at the many flavors of mooncakes through the glass case as customers jostle you speaking Mandarin and Cantonese. Try to decipher the price tags. Ask for 2 mooncakes. You can't eat a whole box alone. When asked if it's a gift, say, "Oh no, it's just for me, you don't need to wrap it." They don't take debit, you have no cash, so wander the surrounding blocks till you find an ATM. Withdraw money with gratitude. Return. They'll ask if you speak Cantonese. You respond, "Xiu xiu, gong xiu xiu, I speak a little." They call you Lang Loi, pretty girl, say, "You are Ho Let, very clever." They're impressed that you rode your bike. Take the mooncakes, stuff them in your backpack, and carry on. Let your feet take you outside into the backyard. Light the candles, lift your head, look up at the bright moon, lower your head and think about home, wherever that is. Lift your head, wonder how to pray, think of heaven, think of earth, break the mooncake in half, eat, tell yourself, I should enjoy this.
So I actually helped organize this TEDxU Alberta conference that Catherine Guanyin Lennon spoke and performed poetry at back in 2017. We met up at Dynasty Century Palace, a popular dim sum spot at the top of Pacific Mall in Chinatown North, for some delicious food and a conversation.
Let's order some food first. Okay. 我哋寫低易啲啦，Either way.
We'll go shrimp because then we won't get like cilantro energy.
Yeah.
I think a challenge for Edmonton's Chinatown is, well, I mean, I think one, like historically, is just kind of the relationship
between like Chinatown and the city, like the city of Edmonton. And I think it's improving. Now there's the Chinatown strategy. I think the city now like will, have it on their list to like engage with the Chinatown community leadership on like different projects. But I think historically and over the years, like, like the neighborhood has been like not invested in, like not heard, not asked for input, which again is very common of just the way government doesn't really try very hard to hear from the less powerful voices or the non-English speaking voices. So I think that's like definitely part of the picture and like has been for many generations. Or very like token engagement to be like, well, we spoke with one person and they were Chinese, so we've spoken to the community. Or we've spoken to one Chinese community organization, so therefore we've spoken to all people in Chinatown, even though not everyone here is Chinese. Like it's a very diverse neighborhood. Yeah, so I think that, continues to be a challenge. Like, how do you choose who is Chinatown, right? How can you selectively say that only Chinese people are Chinatown when like Chinatown as a geographic area is so diverse? You can't pick and choose who's part of the neighborhood, who's part of the community. So I think with this type of work, like I'm of mixed Chinese heritage. So like I don't know, I think I'm always thinking about like who's included and who's not included. And I think within this realm of cultural work, there's always the danger of like, who is Chinese enough? Like, what is Chinese enough? And then, that gets complicated. Like, a lot of the businesses in the neighborhood are Vietnamese Chinese. Like, there's, like, African businesses. There's an Ethiopian church. There's, like, Filipino restaurants, right? There's a really wide range. And so, like, I think one of the reasons I was really interested in just kind of rooting down and understanding my own heritage better was in order to connect with others. Like, for me, it's not about building a fortress of, like, cultural identity.
When I think about a Chinatown community, it's geographical based rather than ethnic based. And the first thing I'd say is, okay, well, if it's geographically based, where do you draw these boundaries? And I'd be really intentional to include the business, commercial, economic North Chinatown, and the heritage and cultural South Chinatown as kind of our boundaries, from Jasper Ave all the way up to, let's say for now, like 107 Ave, where Lucky 97 is. When I think about that whole area, then it's not ethnic based. I think about the businesses here, the social agencies here, the residences in the community, the community members that use the social agencies, that frequent the social agencies. I think about the community organizations and cultural organizations in the South. I think about the arts district as well in between, from the Wind Spear to the Royal Alberta Museum. Essentially, the Chinatown community as this 97th Street corridor, and the stakeholders and the neighbors on both sides of that corridor. And currently, when we think about governance and how the various groups are involved in decision making, there's a lot of work to be done there to bring everyone to the same table. Chinatown, at the end of the day, is still a community where those that are most involved are those representing the businesses and the cultural organizations. They definitely have the strongest sense of belonging to the neighborhood. And I think one of the opportunities here is to be able to reach out to others that also live and work and play in this neighborhood, to come to the table to see how we can better our shared neighborhood.
The challenges that our Chinatown faces are complex and deep, to say the least. It's clear there's a lot of urgent work to do on a municipal, provincial, and federal level with our current structure of funding allocation and decision making, but also on the ground level in terms of education, mutual aid, intercultural relationships, and capacity building. I've been seeing a recent uptick in Chinatown-related projects, events, and discussions since seeing Chinatown Greetings last year. So I'm curious to explore those avenues in the next episode and see how some individuals and collectives aren't waiting around and are working to reclaim Chinatown and to reimagine what the space can be.
Thank you.